Hi, welcome to James Miller Lifeology. Great show for you today. I'll be teaching you ways to have a perception shift in any situation you're in. I'll also be interviewing Heidi Siefkas, who's an author and an adventurer. She shares her story of how she had to have a perception shift in order to move on to the next level in her life.
You have an incredible story. I know you've gone through so much, it seems like, but I can't wait for you to tell my listeners all about it.
Let me start by pressing rewind. About 6 years ago, I was, I would say, a person who had it all. I was a happily married, successful travel industry executive, globetrotting from Berlin to LA, taking a red eye back to Orlando, living an active, healthy lifestyle in South Florida. And then on one of my travels, something stopped me in my tracks. And I was in Hudson River Valley, New York, during the fall color change. And as I said, I was someone who was doing multiple things and quite well. I was juggling lots of balls. I'm sure many of the listeners can relate to the balancing act that we all do.
Sure.
And I said, you know what? I'm going to enjoy a Sunday stroll, admire the fall color change, but I'm going to take out the trash at the same time. So as I collected the last night's pizza box and trash bag, I exited the building and everything went blank.
Oh my gosh, what happened?
The next thing I knew, 5 days later, I awoke in St. Francis Hospital in the ICU unit. Beyond frightening. But to comfort me were my husband and my mother at my side. However, I didn't understand what had transpired, and they filled in the pieces of my puzzle for me. 5 days earlier, when I was taking out the trash, apparently, as I turned the corner of the building, 1,000-pound tree limb struck me, breaking my neck and then leaving me unconscious there outside of the building.
Oh my gosh. So the tree limb just fell?
It was a normal fall day, and the tree limb just fell out of nowhere. I didn't feel, see, or hear a thing, and I typically would present myself to someone that is aware of my surroundings. But I don't remember anything.
Oh, my gosh. Wow. I'm so sorry.
At the time, I couldn't fathom what had happened to myself. I was really in denial. I was a self-proclaimed superwoman. I could handle anything if I put my mind to it. But this was a moment that I call a when all balls drop moment. At that point, my health was in peril, and the prognosis was uncertain at that point in time.
Oh, my gosh. So for someone who's going 100 miles an hour, the thought of, I'm sure, being immobile for 6 months was probably incredibly overwhelming. I can't even imagine that.
It felt like a busy bee's prison, because I was so used to being very active, whether it was taking advantage of everything South Florida has to offer, sun, sand, and being outdoors, to then also professionally speaking, traveling the world. I was limited to a brace as well as not able to return to South Florida. So recovery is difficult when you have the comforts of home, but it was terribly difficult that I was then recovering, living in an area that was not familiar to me, home to me, and living out of a suitcase.
Oh, my Lord. Wow. I'm so sorry.
For me, at the time, I thought I was in the worst place that I could ever have been at the very worst time. But over the years, I have come to appreciate the kismet, or the opportunity that was presented that fall day change. Many people say bad things happen in threes, or that there's a ripple effect when there's something catastrophic or a large milestone in your life, and that certainly was the case in my scenario. Because of that lengthy recovery, my employer needed to move on with their marketing, PR, and sales initiatives. Shortly after the accident happened and the prognosis of many months away from the office, they forced me to resign. And it was a tremendous blow to my ego, to my professional identity. And so there I was dealing with questionable health, recovering away from my home, and now not knowing how I was going to pick up the pieces of my professional career and then also deal with the finances that continue to arrive via mail while you're recovering. If those two things alone weren't enough, definitely the most painful blow was on an emotional level. And I uncovered that my marriage wasn't as faithful as I had believed.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
And when you uncover that your spouse has been living a double life, regardless of whatever else is going on in your life, it takes a huge impact on your persona. So what I found out is that my husband had been living a double life with a younger woman in South Florida. I did not tell anyone around me that this was going on. And many people say, why wouldn't you tell? Didn't you want to get it off your chest? When you've broken your neck, you have bigger fish to fry. And I said, you know what? Right now, I'm going to get my health under control. And then I will start to share and come to terms with whether this marriage is going to be something that can be salvaged. Simultaneously, the fall of 2009, I lost everything that I held dear, my health, marriage, and career.
Wow. And the fact that you're able to even sit here and talk about that, I think just speaks of the resilience that you have, the incredible character that you have, the incredible drive.
And it just so happened that I took a solo journey about a year and a half after all of this happened. And I was sharing with fellow hikers because I enjoy outdoor adventures. And I happened to be in Patagonia, Chile. And I was hiking with two Romanians and two Californians, and then myself.
I love it.
They asked a little bit about myself, and so I told them that recently I'd gone through a tremendous life change. After hearing that story and sharing a picnic lunch at a picturesque overlook in Torres del Paine National Park, the California woman said to me, you know what? Your story is so powerful, I could see it becoming a book. So the seed was planted in Patagonia, Chile, for me to share my story in more ways than just a hearsay around a table or on a hike. 5 years after the accident took place, I released my debut memoir, which is entitled When All Balls Drop, The Upside of Losing Everything. I kept the format the same, so the chapters are more like short vignettes, and it is in chronological order, as a journal would be. There are parts of it that are still in that disjointed, who knows what part of her life is going to fall the next, or what's going to happen next. How is she going to juggle this? How is she going to react to that? Because that's how things happen in life. Although we may have a plan A, we have some detours that come our way to give us, whether that be a challenge or a dose of perspective. Although many people, when they hear my story, they say, wow, if she can overcome this, I can overcome my hurdles. And they absolutely can. But that doesn't mean that little hurdles don't happen to all of us each and every day, that we need to switch that mental channel, if you will, whether it's a TSA line at the airport that is just so slow, or traffic jam, or or spilling wine on a white blouse, just these little things that sometimes will jerk a larger reaction than what they really should. Through going through a full-blown life catastrophe, I have learned to switch my channel very quickly. I used the term Life 2.0 because we all have smartphones or laptops that have those pop-up windows that say your software needs an update or you need the next version of this app. And we probably always close them because we are in the middle of something. Well, what happened to me was basically kind of one of those updates during this time, but I wasn't given a choice whether to ignore that large tree branch that hit me. I was forced to do the upgrades. And what I have come to realize is that in all of our lives, we come upon these updates, and sometimes we can push them underneath the rug, but eventually, just like the updates on the cell phone or a laptop, eventually the functionality starts to flow, or you see more bugs or glitches, and that happens in life as well. So I always tell my friends or to audiences, I warn them not to push things underneath the rug and to perhaps take a few more of those updates when they come, or consciously make the decision to put some updates into your life, little doses of perspective to gain clarity about where you are. The takeaway of this entire experience, and that I want to share with others through my books, is the power of perspective. And I feel that you need doses of perspective like you need your daily vitamins. Then sometimes when you feel a cold is coming on, you'll take a little bit more of vitamin C. So you need a daily dose of perspective and then maybe some frequent, stronger oomph doses of perspective. And so I came up with a mantra during this process, and I wanted something that would be helpful to others as well as a reminder to myself of my lesson. And I wanted it to be in a language that I understood, words that had a meaning, or perhaps even a double meaning. I came up with a phrase with the help, actually, of my clan mantra that's called look up. And look up has a double meaning. It means to look up and be aware of your surroundings, whether that's appreciating the fall colors or the hazards around you. And in essence, it means be mindful. So whether you're at your steering wheel and you're about to leave from a bad work meeting, you can look up from that steering wheel, of course, before you're driving away. Appreciate what you're feeling. Rub your fingers together or wiggle your toes, or see that it's sunny out, or that you find a rainbow, or that the music in the car is your favorite song. So look up is a reminder to be mindful, but also the secondary meaning is to spin each situation positively. So whether it be an uncomfortable text that you received, maybe that was just a reminder or an opportunity to spin something positively into a learning experience. Why on earth do we see things as why me, not again? But it's an opportunity to learn. Each wound, each hurdle and hiccup turns into wisdom. So that's the daily dose of perspective. I think it resonates with a lot of people because it takes only 5-10 seconds to say to yourself, look up, flip that switch. And the second tip is that you sometimes need frequent, larger doses of perspective. And that's what meditation brings. And you can find meditation in many different forms. I've tried just about everything underneath the sun during my recovery, whether it was dealing with pain, whether it was dealing with emotional strife. I did yoga. I did meditational walks through labyrinths, breathing exercises. And all of that really brings you to a clarity. It's that you're focused on one thing, whether it's the breath or a balancing pose or trying to find where the labyrinth is going to lead you, or where perhaps you will take the labyrinth. Through this process, started bringing in passions of my career in the travel industry. And I found that adventure is my form of meditation, and it can be needed dose of perspective for others. Now, it doesn't mean that you have to travel to a foreign country or go skydiving. Adventure can come in many forms, just as other meditation forms can be gardening, exercise, even singing. I define adventure as something that's all-consuming and that perhaps it's a little bit fearful. So it takes you out of your comfort zone. Writing a book is certainly an adventure. You relive the experience. In order to really write well, you cannot be doing anything else. No Facebook update. Typically, you want to be in a removed environment, such as where I wrote my 2 books on the island of Kauai in the middle of the Pacific. Even trying a new sport like stand-up paddleboarding, similar to yoga poses that you have to balance on one foot. To balance on a stand-up paddleboard, you also need to be there. There's no mental list of to-dos. My 2, tips of advice in order to really take advantage of the power of perspective or get daily doses of it. And Look Up sure works for me and has worked for lots of readers of my book, When All Balls Drop, and With New Eyes, as well as get frequent doses of a stronger component of perspective.
So Heidi, if my listeners want to find you online, where would they find your books and maybe more information about you?
My website is my name, HeidiSiefkas.com. That's HeidisSiefkas. And you can find everything about my books, an upcoming film version of When All Balls Drop, events, and my travels. And if they like print e-versions or audiobooks, When All Balls Drop on Amazon, and its second book, With New Eyes, The Power of Perspective.